Welcome to AI No Going Back, a multi-angle deliberation about the advantages and concerns we face in regard to the pervasive phenomenon of artificial intelligence. In the coming minutes, an alumni panel consisting of Matthew Middleton, Mariya Palanjian, and Dr. Wendy Bendoni will review AI from an overarching perspective with a special focus on business and consumer views. As an introductory note, I would like to remind all of us that our human cohort has dealt with numerous challenges in the past, all of which seeming to be a major threat to our existence, yet all of which merely leading to a reinvention of our performance. Just remember the Industrial Revolution, when so many manual workers must have agonized over their livelihood, or the threat to the calmness of small-town living when automobiles and airplanes gave us access to larger cities. Think about the emergence of the internet and the way online accommodations have since changed banking, purchasing, and even the way we work. So many revolutions have manifested themselves to us, and all of them are now part of our status quo. All our resilient species did was adjust and reinvent the way we lived. And yes, many jobs have become obsolete, but just as many new ones have emerged. So now we're facing AI at an increasingly interfering space. How will that ultimately affect us? Let's listen to three Woodbury University business alumni who have invested ample thinking on the topic.
AI is interesting to say the least. When we say that there is no going back, we truly mean it. There's so much change that's going to happen that it will be difficult to catch up. A quick question that comes up with many is what really is artificial intelligence? Where are we sitting with this? From the research we've gathered, it is a series of tools. There are different kinds of AI, from very limited space ones to more intelligent. What they are hoping for is creating, of course, something that can match a human, if not go beyond what we currently utilize. But different AI can be for different specific use cases. You have an AI that specifically helps you with, say, researching a specific topic, not just research in general, but research on, say, microbiology or something very, very specific and highly refined. This specialization allows them a narrow focus so that they might be weaker in multiple other categories, but they're extremely strong in the one. And from there, we are trying to, of course, expand that out further and further, to which we have actually, within the last week, Google talked about Alpha Evolve, which is a attempt at a self-improving AI. It looks through a lot of Google's code within its own company and just kind of says, oh, well, this is incorrect. We should make it more efficient. And so it's constantly doing that. And brief moments of people talking about it have said that it's been able to shave off seconds of processing time, which of course means seconds doesn't seem a lot until you find out that those are millions of dollars being saved each time. As stated, our use cases will be from Dr. Bendoni and from Mariya, as far as a user case and a business owner experience for what these AI are, and looking at these specific different types of AI that are out there. Finally, I will talk briefly on the reactions that people in general are having. What are our concerns? What are the absolute wonders of what we can create as a result of this? And what do we really want to do about it? Seeing the world as it is, and where do we think things will actually land? With that, I'd like to give it over to Dr. Bendoni.
Hello. Well, thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you so much. So, as said, I am an alumni, but I also am teaching. I'm the chair of the Marketing and Fashion Marketing Department here at Woodbury University. And I have definitely had a whirlwind of experience with AI with both my father, with my students, with work, like on every level. So when I was asked to talk about just community and consumers, part of my area is around consumer behavior in digital culture. So I found it really interesting, even when introducing this to students, along with my father at the same time, seeing different reactions of how people thought of AI, and this is typically, it's a robot. It's always a robot. It just seems to what people come to mind. And then as I explored with students, it started turning into a lot of different things. Wait, I need to show you this. My slides got excited here. Here we go. So when you deal with students, you also open up to the imagination of what AI can do. It doesn't look like the robot anymore because there's like this limitless idea of using it to explore your curiosity. But then if we just open up our phone, do any kind of search, there's horrifying things, there's promising, opportunities that are happening. And someone that studies digital culture, part of what I do is I follow the trail of what most people are reading, what they tend to be drawn to. With that being said, one of the things that I like to say in regards to AI is that AI doesn't really care how old you are. It just wants to know if you're curious. So with that being said, one of the things I tried to do, both as a marketer, as a parent, as a professor trying to help my students when they hear there's jobs out there, or as even my child asking me, how important is education? I keep trying to figure out, let's back up, let's talk about how consumers use it and who's using it in what way. So with that being said, the first thing is to go into what are the drivers of change? What are things that encourage consumers to use it? And if we break this down by cohort groups, by different generations, obviously this is more of a giant net over the generation. That doesn't mean every single person uses it, but just to start to segment the groups to understand how they're using it. So if we looked at baby boomers, one of the things that, because my dad's like, I never use AI, yet he uses Alexa all the time. Then I had to inform them, this is part of AI. And it's something that's somewhat hidden, but they use it every day. Also with healthcare, health tools, different things that have been embedded in that. And this is also helps with the adoption process. Now, if we go to the next generation, to Generation X, the number one thing that everybody seemed to agree on was anything helping them write, especially emails, help their grammar quickly. As far as LinkedIn, using that also for job placement. Searching, which we'll get into a little bit later, searching kind of goes to a whole other level of how it's being used. And then going into the idea of helping your workflow. Anything that can speed up your day where you can get off sooner or enjoy some of the other things that you're looking for. That was one of the reasons that a lot of consumers were saying it in the Gen X generation, why they liked AI. Once again, this is more observation, looking at what people are doing, what they're saying. And then as we keep going into it, we go into the millennials. So first to jump on the chat, first to look at for Canva. Canva seems to be leading a lot of different ways of how they're using it for presentations. And then even going into Spotify, as far as using it for AI for suggestions, Spotify playlist, you can have an AI DJ, personal finance. And this basically adoption is going quickly because they're used to it. It's comfortable to them. This was also part of the first like sharing economy generation, where if anybody remembers the avocado toast, like everybody had to share their avocado toast. And then as we keep going into Gen Z, and this is the generation that I'm teaching right now. And in a class, it was split down the middle, how many people were using it and how many people were not using it and were kind of scared to use it for a lot of different reasons. But one of the top reasons, and there's a study, I don't have the whole study in here, but we can give a link. But one of the number one reasons or ways they're using it is actually for mental health and therapeutic tools. Not feeling alone. It's also part of the, remnants of the COVID experience, and learning is different. Everything's different. I'm sure that I hear from, other employers how this generation, it's just approached differently. So AI actually has some amazing features they love. Also going into art, music, memes, social media. I remember when I was teaching, about what AR is in 2017, and everybody was like, no, I don't use that. I'm like, well, you use, Snapchat, not the filter, and that's AR. So you actually are using a form of AI. So they were raised on it. So obviously, this generation, you would think that everybody wants it. Some of the things that we've actually seen with this generation is there still is this not comfortable. They still like, especially when we start dealing with influencers. Now we have a lot of AI influencers that it's even hard to tell if they are human. Um, and more influencers are actually starting to have their own influencers. That's a whole other conversation. Then we go to Gen Alpha. So, and this generation is called a billion different things. It's important to note that their parents are typically millennials. So you'll also find some shared behavior, but then you'll also find that this generation is being more controlled on the amount of social media and exposure. And this is through AI tools. So once again, I feel like every time I see a good, I see a bad. So it's like figuring out what is important to this particular consumer. As far as how they use it, it's just how things work. It's not really, oh, AI has entered the force. It's just part of their culture. No fear, AI is invisible. And then a lot of this research was gathered through audience intelligence software, but then there's a really interesting paper that was written in 2024. And the paper was about how AI is being used. So if you see here, you see how in ranking, how it was being used, and then how it has switched in 2025. And as we start to go through this, we can also see that moving all the way to the top is the therapy. And this continues in a lot of different ways. There's pros and cons of this, but this is definitely something that is at ease for consumers to use. And as you start to go through, it's really interesting. The name of it is on the bottom, but it's really interesting because it even deep dives into every element of the tools, because that's always what I'm interested in is like what tools are they using for each one of these sections. Okay, it's thinking about going to the next slide. Here we go. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and of course it changed again because Google just launched more things, but it's important to note that companies like Google are trying to figure out there's this competition for search right now because everybody's searching a lot of different ways. And as a consumer, if you're looking for a certain thing, you might use Amazon to search, right? So it's like a lot of Gen Z uses social media to search. And as we start to explore this, it's this idea of how search can actually be used. So now, if you're searching for something, which I've already used the image tools, but this actually helps you keep customizing, similar to chat on Google, to find the products that you're looking for. And in real time, it can bring it up, the products that you want. You can customize it because typically I have found that Google has been lacking. I've been using other tools to figure out how to use it. Then as far as products, a lot of times when you're shopping for a product, you are looking for how that product is being shown. And I want to see it on a person. I want to see it, and this is personally how I want it. But now, even with the new AI tools, you can now take these garments, basically filter over and create a whole video campaign. All right, I am almost out of time, but I did not want to leave without this last one. One of the areas that I'm responsible for is internship. And, jobs change titles 1,000 different times. And Google, I feel like I'm representing Google right now. Google came out with Career Dreamer, which has been great to help my students look for different positions because it basically filters through every different job and helps you figure out maybe jobs that you didn't even know about. All right, that is going to conclude my time. I am going to pass this over to Mariya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was so informative. I wish I could listen to you all day. Um, Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know, somebody let me know if you can see my full screen. Yes? Thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm Mariya Palanjian and I am an entrepreneur. I am not a techie, although I am trying to be now because mainly probably because of AI, I think, because I've been using technology. I've been dealing with tech clients for the past 15 years now, and I love the tech industry, but I didn't go to school for technology, and I've had a few tech ideas, but no engineering experience. And now I'm kind of happy to say that I'm looking into possibly starting a technology that is going to allow me to use AI to build the technology. But that's a whole different presentation. I'm not going to go into that, but I just want to reiterate that I am not a tech expert. I am a business owner who uses AI to move really fast, stay lean, and scale smarter. I run an ad agency. I do have several other companies, but today I'm mainly going to talk about my advertising agency, only because there's a huge sector of that business that I deal with the government, and I want to talk to you about how I use it safely. And most importantly, how I used it to help double my proposal outputs, because working with the government can be challenging. There's so much paperwork. Their RFPs are 50 plus pages. And I know a lot of people, when they think of the Olympics coming to to Los Angeles, they're like, oh, I wanna be involved in that. And then they get in and register, and then they're like, oh my God, no, it's so much paperwork. There's so much to do. So I'm going to dive in and tell you how AI has simplified things for me. So in terms of, oops, ready? Okay. So why AI matters for entrepreneurs? I mainly want to talk about this in 2025 because at this point, I don't think AI for entrepreneurs is optional. It is literally the difference between scaling and stalling. If you're not leveraging AI, then you're falling behind your competitors. That's how simple it is. And it's not really about replacing people. It's about augmenting your smartest people, right? And yes, I do have to admit, back in 2023, I did let go of a copywriter and an analyst. I mean, I'll be honest, I had to get lean and fast, and I realized AI is doing it for $20 versus, a lot of money. And so, um, in 2025, your competitive edge is going to be speed, no matter what business you're in. And so businesses that use AI can definitely produce more content, make more decisions, and submit the deliverables at the pace that is expected out there nowadays. In terms of what really changed my business, specifically in the government sector. So I've been using AI for over since 2015, 2014, and I've been using it from a different angle. There's a lot of being in advertising. We do predictive analysis, machine learning, data analysis. So for years, I've been using AI, certain software, certain platforms that existed that was open and available to people in the ad agency. But then obviously when a few years ago when it came out and it was open to public, it just gave us like you, it also gave me the ability to use it for different things, not just for data analysis or, sit and predict whether my campaign is going to work. But now I ended up using it for other things like SOPs and being productive in terms of operations and accounting and so on. But I specifically want to talk about the government and how it changed the game for me in the government sector. So I started working with the government 5 years ago. And back then it was somewhat still manual, and really time consuming. Like I said, a lot of the contracts, the proposals that you have to submit are 40 pages long. And it's this, what's annoying sometimes is that it's the same thing that you do sort of the same thing that you do for every different RFP. But no matter how efficient you become internally, it's really hard to become efficient unless you have AI. And so, how I doubled my government proposal submissions, and I'll dive into a few case studies to share with you how exactly that has changed, but it has transformed. I literally now do more proposals than I've ever done. And I want to say the last 2 years, and then the last year, it really started picking up. It did cut my campaign timelines from 2 weeks to 3 days, literally. And that means, it's not just the strategy briefs or the copy or the visuals, but it's also, the research and understanding the client's competitor landscape, which generally would have taken us, days to do, and now we're able to do it in hours, minutes sometimes. Branded documents, emails, decks built in hours, not days. What I love about it is that it already knows, it's trained, it understands my company. It acts as if it's my right-hand person, like the mini me. And then when I go in and I say, hey, revise my deck so that it's more attractive to the health and wellness industry, or the tech industry that is targeting underserved communities, then it just kind of it just does it. And then I'll ask for it to do deep search and figure out what's the news and so on. So there's just so many different ways. And then faster client research and strategy development, I already sort of mentioned that. In terms of 10 ways I use to scale, I'm gonna go through this really quickly, but this is just 10 ways. There are probably 100 ways, and it was really hard for me to narrow it down. But like I said, summarizing complex RFPs. So before, I used to spend a lot of time reading through the 50-page RFP, trying to understand, is this aligned with what I do, not just what we offer, but sometimes certain RFPs can have requests or insurance policies or certain things, certifications that you might not have. And for you to spend hours and prepare a proposal for an RFP and not read the whole thing, it's not smart. So generally, it was reading the entire RFP. What it does now, AI, it knows what I have, the certifications I have. I'll upload the RFP into ChatGPT, and then I ask and say, is this the right RFP for me? And it'll literally call out the things in the scope of work that are not aligned with what my company does, or the certifications that I don't have. So that way I don't waste time on even reading the next 2 pages of the 50-page RFP. It helps me draft proposals, and in a very persuasive narrative. So I'll give you an example. I'm working on an RFP right now that has to do with sustainability, and there is a specific law that we have to abide by when we do the advertising, and I know nothing about the law. And so generally you would go and research and Google, learn all about that particular law, and then go back and figure out how to do it. In this case, I'm like, hey, draft me the proposal and make it persuasive so that they know that I can get the consultants needed to get on board and understand the sustainability law that we need to abide by. It helps me write ad copy, emails, campaign taglines, create structured pitch decks and campaign plans. My favorite definitely was the SOPs, systems and processes within my company. Generally, it's something that takes so much time to sit and just, write it down so the next person that you hire can have something to go off of. Um, my AI did it because it already understands my workflow. It understands it over the past few years, it has seen what I do. And when I say, hey, give me an SOP for a new position that I just created, and they're going to do X, Y, Z, it doesn't only look at what my company has done, but it also goes and looks at the industry standards, looks at laws, regulations, and all of that. Um, Builds client-facing recaps and reports, which is my favorite because uh, I, used to have a lot of people on my calls. Now I a lot of times have only myself or whoever's working on a campaign is on that call. There's no need for 2, 3 people to be on that call with the worry that, oh, we have to take notes and one person has to take notes and none of that exists anymore. Obviously, analyzing big data to tell a story is important. And then designing fast visuals. My favorite is obviously my Midjourney's one of my favorite ones, but Canva, I use it almost daily. And then automate follow-up emails, client check-ins, and so on, and speed up the contract and agreement reviews. That's another thing that's super important and very, very time saving, but also money saving. Because before I used to have an attorney review all that, and now I don't. I don't. I literally have the AI look at it and call out what's different. Next, I have a case study. So the case study that I took is based on the government contract. And I briefly touched upon this, that before we used to read 50-page RFPs manually and then writing proposals from scratch each time, repeating the formatting and the structural work because every RFP has different structures and different formatting. This would obviously and another thing that a lot of times you might in an RFP not see is the missed deadlines, and then you start working on it and then you're like, oh no, I missed that one little date that they had, or a deadline for me to be at a meeting in order to qualify to go after this RFP. Those are the things that it catches immediately. Spending hours rewriting similar sections across proposals, juggling multiple deadlines with no automation or shortcuts. So generally it was 1 to 2 proposals per month. After I started utilizing AI and really training my AI to act like a government contract expert, it helped me summarize the scope, eligibility, the key requirements, draft-based cover letters, narratives. It already has all the baseline information that I have. It just applies it, and what's important is that every proposal has different formats, and it formats it exactly how the proposal requires it, built-in workflows, and it's able to focus. That gives me the ability to focus more on the strategy and the client relationship instead of the repetitive tasks that I was just swamped in. So now it's probably more than 2 to 4. It just varies on the month depending, but it's more than doubled the amount of proposals that I'm able to submit. So one thing I want to talk about is the prompt engineering. This is super important, and I know a lot of you probably already know this, so it's probably nothing new, but I have different folders within. I use ChatGPT. I use a lot of different things, but ChatGPT paid version is one of my favorite ones because I have trained it for years and it's pretty smart. It has different folders that act like different experts. And so when you usually start, prompting an AI, it's best to prompt it as a role, right? Like act as XYZ, act as a government contract specialist. And then you want to be clear on the format, ask for bullet list, summary, email, whatever, just be really clear on what you need. The tone is important. It's funny, yesterday I was a little frustrated at one of my clients, and that's really rare, but I was frustrated. And I tried to be as nice as I could, but I felt like I was still not as nice as I usually am. So I went back to chat and I said, please, please make me sound kind and nice. And it just literally got the message across in the nicest way, which was probably something I couldn't have done at that moment because I was just like, so the tone is important, the style is important, and ultimately the goal, right? What is the goal you're trying to, like in that case, that email the goal was trying to make them understand that we have 10 other clients, they're not the only one, but say it in a nice way. And then save and reuse what works. That's precisely what I've done. I have folders where everything that I have, for example, if it's my reporting folder, the reporting folder has subfolders of different clients and different data. Only the data that we can share, which I'll cover that in a bit. But then all we do is every month go back and feed the new results, and then it's able to not only give me what happened last month, but it gives me campaign to date data. And that's why saving and reusing what works is important, because it gets smarter and smarter each day. And then in terms of additional things to just refine, always talk to it. treat it as if an assistant. That's how I treat it, as if it's my assistant. It's the mini me, but a better version. Oh my God, on steroids. And then let's see. So go to AI platforms that I use. I use a lot of different things, but these are just a few that oops, sorry, not sure. Sorry about that. Here we go. So ChatGPT is one of my favorite ones, only because it is so trained in so many different departments within my agency, within my company. I use Perplexity a lot, Canva a lot, Notion, Jasper, Phantom I love because that has saved us so much time to where my assistant doesn't need to be at my Zoom meetings anymore because, it takes notes and then sends me the summary, the action items, everything. I mean, it just saves us tons of money just on the meetings and the notes and whatever that somebody had to always come in and do. What else? The Jasper is really cool. It creates marketing copy, sales pages, and email campaigns. A Humata, it reads long PDFs and contracts. So sometimes if let's say an RFP is more than 50 pages and I know my chat GPT might get confused, I might use Humata just to kind of go in and analyze certain things. And then let's see, Loom is really nice too, produces synced videos and client explainers without filming. So a lot of times if we're trying to articulate something and we don't have time to get on a call with a client, we'll just kind of do a quick video with Loom and send it over. But that's just honestly a few of a list of maybe, I think Dr. Bendoni had a lot. Her list. I want to see her list because hers was like a lot. So the list is long, but there's just you. I think what's important as a business owner is to really think about what you do, your day to day, what operations, what takes the most amount of time, and then go out there and research and see what tools can you use to simplify and automate some of these things. AI best practices for leaders. So use AI as your assistant, not your brain. I always remind people that AI is here to support, not replace you. It does give us some amazing ideas that like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. But you got to kind of think of it that way, right? Because it does make mistakes as well. Let it handle the heavy lifting and you bring the strategy and the judgment. So that's super important. I use it to draft and summarize and format things, but I'm the one that ultimately who shapes it and says, no, I think I want to take this approach to do outreach, or I think I want to do this. Let's look into that. And then let's look into some research or latest news about blah, blah, blah. And then it just kind of dives in and helps me really come back with a solid sort of strategy. I review everything before sharing externally. I always refine the tone and accuracy before delivering it to the client or the team. Build repeatable workflows. That's super important. And I do take my time prompting and training. And then if certain prompts end up being messy, I'll delete and start all over again. Because I feel like it's one of those things where you do it once and you just kind of not forget about it, but it gets really smart as it goes. So you don't have to constantly do the same thing over and over and prompt it the same way. And then, like I already said, prompt libraries, templates, SOPs to scale faster and consistently. And just one thing I want to call out is don't wait for it to be perfect. Just test it and refine it. If it comes back with something that you don't like, just talk to it and tell it. I talk to it. I like to talk to it because I like to think like it's my assistant and I talk to it. Sometimes I yell at it and sometimes I'm nice to it, but you kind of just when you're with it all day and you utilize it for a lot of different things, a lot of different departments, it just you have to find a way to talk to it and prompt it nicely. But one thing I want to say is always be nice. You never know. Just say please and thank you. I just do it. I don't know. It sounds crazy, but I do it. And always start simple and improve with feedback and adapt as you go. And then the final takeaways that I want to share is that AI is not going to take your job. Okay, it's the people that are using AI are. So I really encourage everybody to start using it. whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for somebody, just start using it. Your edge is how you apply it, not whether it exists or not. Um, as Dr. Marquez opened with her opening, automobiles were the same, right? Like people were scared at first, but then can you imagine living without cars? Um, and then speed, clarity, and volume are going to be your new competitive advantages. So ultimately, when you think of AI, think of that. It's going to help you move faster, communicate better, and just do everything more efficiently. And then and I think the one thing the final takeaway, well, one of the final takeaways is really learn how to prompt it well. Build the system. Sit and think. Think about, how do you do what you do? What steps do you take? How do you think? And teach it to do the same thing. And then the best results come from refining both your prompts and your processes. So you're probably going to learn to become better, and the AI is also going to become better as you move along. And then lastly, a couple of more last things. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I just want to call that out. And you don't need to be technical at all to utilize AI at literally, like you don't. You'll notice as you're using it, especially for business, it just becomes easier. I just briefly want to touch upon privacy before I pass it on to Matthew. Privacy is top priority for me. We have confidentiality agreements with our clients. So a lot of times when we are trying to analyze data that is there for us to provide a story and reporting to our clients, it's important for us to think privacy, and we do it in many different ways. First of all, I use the paid versions of everything so that I have the option to say, I want this to be private. I don't want this to be utilized, for whatever, to train the model. I don't want that. Just keep this private. That's important. Secondly, I never mention clients' names. If it's data, if it's numbers, it's just raw data and numbers. And I put it in and I say, okay, tell me what happened in March. Tell me what happened in September, October. Another thing, it's just every time I use it, I think twice, is this something that is okay for me to share with others? And if it's not, then you don't. But if it is something that you could take away the company name or whatever, and you're just giving very generic information for it to give you feedback, then there's nothing wrong with that, right? So I would say just be very careful with the privacy stuff. Even if you're coming up with ideas, you're coming up with a tech idea, for example, I would be careful, because if the AI is giving you some of the ideas as to how this technology should work, is it really yours? Is it not? That's the question that everyone's asking. So I would say think of privacy. That's the only thing that I would say. But other than that, I'm extremely happy, and I encourage everybody to start using it because there's no going back, as the title of this webinar says. Thank you. Matthew, you're.
Yeah. And with that, the real question is, what have we heard? There's multiple types of AI. It goes from general to specialist to self-learning, and each one can do wildly different things. We've heard of a few that are about talking to people, setting up schedules. There's even some that create software like Replit. Its uses: information, speed, efficiency, results, business and competition in general. Anything that a person can do, they can do better, faster. It becomes less about the amount of work you have to do at the beginning and more about reviewing things and then utilizing that afterwards. It's like I would say in some ways it's like a sped up Google search. The amount of time that you would sit on Google checking multiple different websites, comparing information, trying to find the best, and then sorting through it. The AI is going to do that. I'm sure some of you have even seen already on Google. When you type in something, sometimes it gives the AI statement, which I don't know if any of you have read those, but sometimes they're kind of what they get a little wild in what they're off on, but they always give their links and resources. And so you can go, okay, why does it believe this? And then you can check, and it's like, oh, it believes this because a random company website said that this is true. And it's like, okay, so that's a little less useful. But sometimes it's like, well, this is like real actual data. Or you can say, if you're using something more powerful than just a Google search, you can say, using like actual data and statistics from a real study, explain this phenomena. And with that, it's really a something for everyone kind of thing. This is going to be a universal set of tools. We're already pushing into the area of there being a physical body for the AI. China has put out a little robot police officer, kind of like a RoboCop thing. It can do front flips for some reason. That is a very important aspect that got talked about. But it walks around, it studies, it says, hey, this person did something illegal, and it records everything. And those of us we're in this most of us are in the States. We don't necessarily have this, but over in Europe, there's a lot of CCTV footage. You hook an AI up to that, it's going to be able to pick out a bunch of people and say this person did something illegal, this person did something illegal. It's just going to like run through them very, very easily. It pushes far past what we have had as barriers before. I forget who it was, but somebody, I believe it's the CEO of Fiverr, said that the easy tasks are going to become non-existent, the hard tasks are going to become easy, and the impossible tasks are just going to become hard. And so that brings us to what our concerns are, because there is a huge amount of concern that a lot of people who are the doomsayers really come into this. And some of them, Mariya already talked about, and so has Dr. Bendoni a bit. But let's look at AI as far as their long-term objective focus. What's the real difference between an AI that you tell to follow the laws versus avoid legal scrutiny? You have an AI and you tell it these are the rules of the society and this is what we're supposed to be doing, and it follows those. And then you have someone who's a little bit more unscrupulous, and they say, I just need you to get the job done, but I need you to make sure that legal people, the law, police officers, investigators, nobody really realizes what's happening. And all of a sudden we have one person maybe winning a bit more often, even though they're doing something that is against the law, wrong, all those kinds of things. What does an AI that's specialized to do one thing and acts in accordance to always trying to improve realizes there's another AI that does the job better? And if it's too freed from, if it's given too much kind of free reign, will it decide on things like, well, I'll just go and kind of work with this other AI, kind of going rogue? And this is a very freewheeling assumption. Obviously, you have to work with an AI that's already a pretty free agent out there. And then there's also the question of like, what is an AI's kind of response to what it considers to be threats to itself, and what does it even consider to be threats? Then moving into the infinite connection of the internet, what happens when a bad actor creates an AI whose sole purpose is to hack everybody all the time for nothing but a joke? You have a 24/7 hacker that now has to be defeated by a better hacker. So you have to find a way to get someone or an AI that can beat this other thing that's already got a pretty big backlog of training data. Um, the job loss that people are concerned about, there are ways around it. It's about learning, becoming better, but many people are still concerned about the human kind of level being lost. There's a good example will be that the internet, we've already seen there have been YouTube videos and other things where AI is utilized to help write the script or help to make a creative video. And how much can an AI pump out compared to a human as far as content level? And what are we going to do when we go onto the internet and it turns out 90% of our content is created by an artificial intelligence? This is a slightly more realistic view and question of like, what do we do in that scenario? How much of the internet can we suddenly believe is true if there's a bunch of fake studies being written and run about all over the place? And so there's a lot of things to consider here and make sure to go, this is a concern and we should look into this, and perhaps create an AI whose job is to verify information or act in a way that counters some of these issues. Because as good as we are as humans, we've already proven that some of the issues of past AI are slowly becoming easier and easier to get through and get past. Next is running a business without human oversight. There was a study that was done very quick. They took about 10 different AI and they took a human and they said, run a vending machine business. And they just did that. And the 10 AI three of them were able to beat the human, one getting $2,200 compared to the human's $880. A fairly significant difference. And what if you are somebody who decides, I want to own all the vending machines in the greater Los Angeles area? And so you just create a series of AI to just pump and win that battle. It costs a lot now to create an AI, and it costs, like a lot of money, but eventually it may cost less. And vending machines, while maybe being on the lower side as far as people think, we get into the idea of like, what if there's something so important that people are willing to make dozens of AI just to try to win this kind of, business warfare with each other? And then, of course, there's the extreme level of destruction of society. There's questions about what happens with physical war efficiency. I believe it was a colonel or a general was discussing about how he will utilize AI in war strategy, but there's certain things the AI can suggest which are pretty terrible as far as the human cost. He was in this specific scenario he was talking about. He said that technically it is statistically better to just run straight through a minefield because you will lose less men, because taking the time to find all the mines and get rid of them opens you up to, snipers and other units shooting you, and so you have a much larger loss of life. And so statistically that's better. That's a pretty nobody no frontline soldier is ever going to agree with that, though. They're going to say, no, that's crazy, I'm never going to do that. However, getting past that, if we have an AI that suddenly has all the physical robots, just like the China police officer robot, it won't question that idea and it'll plow straight in. And then there's questions of how does it treat warfare? How is it different than how a human treats warfare? And how does the game change and alter? And that's just assuming kind of a bad case scenario with warfare. You also have to look at the AI has a different incentive structure. Humans have some pretty basic incentives that are all universal to us. We need food, we need water, we need a place to sleep, and we want to keep warm. These are basic things. The AI, the closest it gets is it wants electricity, and it wants processing power, things like that. And that's if it's considering at that level. It may not be thinking about its own survival. It might just be thinking, what is my core objective? How do I get it done? And then the ultimate and wildest question is, whoever owns the best AI is now the new leader of everything. And then questions and concerns come up of, what if the AI ends up roaming free and becomes, what some people would consider like too free, as in its own agent, no questions asked, it can do whatever it wants. Then it kind of just gets to decide who the leader is, and why not just pick itself? But those are deep concerns about people being very afraid. And the truth of the matter is, there are also a lot of wonders and amazing things that can happen. The difference between having to work and wanting to work. Star Trek has this idea that the Federation of humans just, they don't have to do it anymore because they have replicators, and AI get really close on a lot of these levels to making our society a much better place. We have reliable agents that can help us. There's an ability to have an AI and you tell it to, hey, I'm having a meeting, I might need some water, can you like work something out? And the AI is like, oh, I'll handle it, and they'll order it for you. And then you could have another AI whose job is to deliver the water, and then it's just an AI to an AI, and the humans get to sit around and have a very wonderful time. You get to take more time for yourself. You can focus on your personal drives. There's way less busy work. As Mariya was talking about, there's these things that we may love a specific wonderful aspect of our job, but then we have to do all those little nitty things that get us to the point that we're allowed to do the job. And we accept those because that's the trade-off. But this might remove all of those trade-offs in a lot of cases. And the closest we get to is just having to review information, which, if we hate reviewing information, then it's going to be one of those. Next is, there's the idea of less screens. There's going to be more people. We'll have that time again to go out into the world, meet with others, And we can say, I want to see this like wonderful thing, and I've got more time, more capability to do it because an AI can just do these things for me. I have let's say I'm a well-established personality on YouTube, so I have a set formula for how all of my videos go, and I tell the AI, this is what I want to do a video on. Go ahead and write up a script, and then I look at that over and I go, okay, this is good, and then go ahead and put me on there saying about this kind of thing. And the AI aren't there quite yet, but they are really getting there. And you can easily see how this can be diversified into these are my human specific content ideas. And then people will say, well, we want only the human stuff. And then you put up a separate one that says, these are the AI ones that are just me making sure I can get ideas out as quickly as possible. And people will pick up on both. They'll love everything about it. From there, there's the exponential growth of just more AI, more power, more everything, giving us just everything faster, better. Some people are talking about giving their children full access to AI to act as tutors, because one of the best ways to become a very thoughtful person, very intellectual, is you have a mentor, someone who takes the time to sit with you for years and years and years and just focus on your development. And an AI can just do that. And not only that, if you have enough money, you can have a suite of AI who all teach you wildly different subject matter and are completely focused in that one area. And some children that their parents are going to have enough money that they can just do that. And then, our lives again just become easier. We have less issues, more time. We can sit with an AI and say, I really loved this one like steak I had. What was the recipe that I used that one time? What was the mistakes I made? And the AI can say, oh yeah, you added like too much butter by accident, and that's why it tasted like this. Or you put in less soy sauce or something, and you're just gonna love it and know. And this just expands out into every aspect of our lives, kind of no matter where it is. And from that perspective of like the wonders, we need to come back to reality and what do we do? And really, it comes down to preparing, being patient, and riding through the wave. We want to learn skills. It looks like reviewing will be a big skill. It looks like we want to sit down and kind of take a moment. We want to get a balanced lifestyle where we understand when we're being overworked and we can pull back from it. And we want to eliminate any spots where we are reliant too much on something else. A huge history of the world is saying this one thing will never ever fall, and then something happens and it falls. Horses were the greatest thing for the longest time, and then the car came around, and eventually you didn't need as many men taking care of horses. That's just a fact of life. Everything's been like that. Blacksmiths, eventually we had different ways of manufacturing different tools and machinery, and blacksmiths kind of went the way of being less utilized, and there's a few around. We want to be extremely patient. We watch for the signs of what's going on, where the AI is headed, where things might be problematic. We want to confirm our information. As Mariya said, the AI is going to say stuff. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's what are you talking about? And we want to look beyond immediate consequences of, oh, this seems like a bad thing, but maybe there's something better kind of going on. And like I said, ride the wave. We want to drop everything that's unnecessary, kind of keep ourselves focused on, what it is, the thing that we are wanting to do. And we want to do things like remember about the dot-com bubble and how that popped and everything went away. And AI is going to do the same thing. We've already gone over a list of of at least 10 different AI, even more. Eventually, one AI is going to be better than most of them, and that's the one everybody's going to use. And there's going to be a few specialist AI, and there'll still be like dozens or hundreds, but there's no guarantee that any single one being utilized is the one. And for us, we do what humans always do. We get ready, we alter course as necessary, and we keep moving forward for what we know are our personal goals and dreams. Because that's the thing that really like keeps us moving forward, is finding what is like beautiful and wonderful about life to ourselves and constantly pushing forward and just acting towards that greater tapestry of life. And everything else, it flows and it ebbs around us, and we just do our best to live with it as best as we can. And with that, there is so much to talk about. And any questions, 100%, we want to hear anything and everything.